My topic is FCC guidelines and the use of third-party antennas. I kind of got this idea from polling some of the guys out here. Fortunately, I've got the honor to get to work with a lot of different people here and wanted to know which topics from my background might make sense and really narrow down on this topic because there's still some confusion around FCC and the guidelines and stuff, and really narrowed it down from Sam. So Sam, if you don't like this topic, then it's Sam's fault, so blame him. But a little background on me before I get into it. I've actually been in the industry since 1998, did a lot of work. I actually got into it right when the Wi-Fi Alliance was about to get formed and right when Aeronet came out with their 11 megabit product. So it was a pretty exciting time. Cisco quickly thereafter bought Aeronet, and that was when from about 2000 to 2002, pretty straight, I did wireless training. In fact, Carl Schmidt, one of the guys in the class, Carl was one of the first guys I trained in like mid-2000s, so it was pretty exciting. And then pretty quickly thereafter, we started getting into, I did with some other guys, manufacturing antennas and other accessories for wireless deployments, the stuff that you knew you needed for the radios. And the question that we continue even today get asked is, what are the guidelines when it comes to third-party antennas and what to use? So a little bit of what this kind of more of an agenda, but also questions is, first one is, can I use a third-party antenna? Short answer is yes. We'll talk about some of the guidelines and what are kind of some of the rules. Also want to talk about why would you want to? Why would you want to sell them, spec them in, design them? Who's responsible for following these rules, and where can you get more information? So first of all, I hate slides that have a paragraph up here, but this is from the FCC. I'm not with the FCC. I do want to go on record there. So this is coming from the excerpt of the FCC, Title 47, Part 15, and I'll send this out. You guys can read it on your own. But basically, obviously, Wi-Fi radios are a Part 15 intentional radio. But this is exactly what the FCC says. It says any antenna that is of the same type, and when they say same type, they're talking about an omnidirectional, like a patch, a Yagi, sector, but that same type of and equal or less directional gain is an antenna that is authorized with an intentional radiator. Intentional radiator would be an access point. May be marketed with and used with that intentional radiator, and no retesting of this system is required. That doesn't say it real clearly, but bottom line is, to keep it simple, is if you got a radio manufacturer, in any of them, and they have certified an antenna to be used with that particular radio, and I'll give you an example. Let's say they certified a 2.4 gigahertz, 10 dBi omnidirectional antenna to be used with this particular radio. That means that you can use a third-party antenna with 10 dBi or less, and you're still within compliance. Same goes with the 5 gigahertz. So let's say you have a 5 gigahertz that's for that radio certified up to 9 dBi, and it's also an omnidirectional at 5 gigahertz. It means you can use anything that gain or less. And it's important, though, a couple things. One, make sure it's the same type of antenna, whether it's directional like a patch or if it's maybe a Yagi. And also make sure you're paying attention to which radio. Because some of the manufacturers may make a real high gain, cool antenna, but they say you can only use it with this one radio. It's important to pay attention to which radio it's certified with. A lot of what we talk about here is all about what's called EIRP, or effective isotropic radiated power. There's ceilings on it, and it really depends on whether it's point to point or point to multi-point. But at the end of the day, the way you don't get in trouble is know which antennas are certified, and just make sure you keep it at that gain or less, and try to keep it simple. And it's all about being friendly neighbors and working together. Devin talked about it yesterday with all the congestion at 2.4. Well, we can control that by making sure everybody's staying within the guidelines that are out there. And it's pretty simple. The key is just making sure you're knowing who you're working with in the radio manufacturers. So why would you want to sell or recommend or use different antennas? One of them, a lot of it may be propagation options. We have a lot of really good antennas that the manufacturers try to carry in their suite, and all of them do a nice job. But sometimes you may need to propagate or do something different. So knowing how to use a third-party antenna is critical so that you can know which ones you can install and use in certain applications. A lot of it's aesthetics. We get this a lot. The antenna that you want to use, maybe it's a cool form factor, maybe it's a directional that you want to hide. Maybe it's the Dallas Cowboy Stadium and they want them to be silver and they want you to put the color in the dye. A lot of the radio manufacturers, just because they're so focused on a lot of big picture stuff, it's hard for them to be nimble. A lot of the third-party antenna manufacturers can be more nimble. Different mounting options. I was talking to Blake and Ryan this morning, and they were talking about how they've become mounting experts. And it's true. If you're in this space, you become mounting experts, whether it's antennas or the access points. You get really good at it. What a lot of the third-party antenna guys try to do is include really cool mounts with the antenna and different mounting options. That way, when you get out in the field and you're installing, you're like, oh, okay, cool, they got the different stuff that I need. And really the last one, which probably ends up being the most important, is what I call ROE. This is not a technical term, but it's return on EIRP. But basically, it becomes an economic factor. A lot of the radio manufacturers, and I'm not saying it across the board, but their antennas might have a higher price point than some of these third-party antennas that are really great antennas. So if you're looking for economics as an end user, if you're a reseller and you're trying to get a little bit more profit and help your customers out, a lot of times the ROE of a third-party antenna can be quite attractive. This one's important. Who's responsible? They say it in one of that I gave you an excerpt from that part 15, but the whole thing, they talk about you need to be a professional installer. I quote it because it's pretty vague on what they mean by professional installer. At the end of the day, if you're the one installing it as an integrator or reseller, or if you're an end user, it's your responsibility. It's not the manufacturer of the radio, and it's not the antenna. Because antenna guys build a lot of different antennas for different applications. We don't know exactly how you're going to use it. Same with the radio manufacturers. I said the example before about some radio guys will build antennas specific to one radio. Well, that antenna may work and fit on the other antennas. They'll screw on. That doesn't mean you should do it. Being able to find RPSMA, RPTNC connectors and jumper cables, that's easy. Used to not be. 10, 15 years ago it wasn't. Now it's a commodity product. Just make sure you're staying, within the guidelines of the certified antennas, and you'll be clear. One of my suggestions, again, I'm an old school guy I like the physical site surveys. Make sure your site survey kit, if you're going to be surveying with a specific radio, just make sure your kit has the antennas in there that you know are meeting the compliance. That way when you get out and you're surveying, you don't accidentally, spec in an antenna that accidentally is out of compliance. Just make it simple. Do a little bit of legwork up front. As far as where you can get more information, we have a whole cool area on our website that talks about it. Again, I'm going to give Keith the presentation. I got the direct link. If you're having sleeping problems, you can download this FCC document and read it. Another thing is go to your radio manufacturers and make sure they send you a list of these are our certified antennas. And then it just becomes math. You say, okay, they've got this, okay. Then you know which ones work. And it's not anything to be scared of. It's a great way. Most of you guys are here. I know y'all are very affluent at doing it. Just make sure you're clear. You can contact me if you guys want to talk offline. I got business cards. I've got all my good stuff up there. Get with me. I'll be at UC's health meal tonight, which I'm excited about after his great lunch talk. But anyway, thanks, guys.